whatever time you're watching this. So we were away for 2 days. We went on a little camping trip, which was really great. We were camping on the side of the lake and near where we live here. And if you guys have the opportunity to get out into nature, go camping for even just a day and a night, or go out and go hiking or something, like there's just something about nature, just you and creation and creator, and it just refreshes your soul. And it is so good to just stop and take a minute and breathe and get out of the house, get out of town and just enjoy yourself. And so that's my stress relieving tip for the day. But I wanted to just share with you guys some things. As I came back to the garden, I had a nice little harvest waiting for me when I got back. And actually, we got back last night, and about an hour or two after we got home, it started to pour down rain. Now, it has not rained in probably about a week or two, week and a few days, I would say. And I knew that my tomatoes were getting ripe. They were getting to the point where they were going to need to be picked soon. So a tip about tomatoes is that their flavor is best whenever they aren't getting too much water. Like if they're getting to the point where they're starting to ripen, you don't want to be watering them every day because their flavor will be more watery. If you allow them to kind of dry down a little bit and just give them a little bit of water here and there, their flavor, kind of like the sugars and everything, concentrates into the tomatoes and they have much better flavor. So I've been doing that. I've been letting my tomatoes sit up here and dry out a bit, and I haven't been watering them, and they've been ripening, and I knew that this rain would make them split. So if you have your tomatoes and they have not had water for a little while and they are starting to ripen, sometimes they'll even do it whenever they haven't started to ripen yet, but especially if they've started to ripen and you get a whole bunch of rain, there's a whole bunch of rain coming, you want to go out and you want to harvest the tomatoes that are close to being ripe. It's okay if they have a little bit of green on their shoulders or whatever still on the top. But if they are getting to the point where they're about to be ripe, you need to go out and save those tomatoes before it rains. Because if they get a surge of water all at once, after being dry for a few days, they will split on you, and that's why your tomatoes are cracking. If you have tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, big tomatoes, it doesn't matter. If they're dry for several days and then you get a bunch of water, they will crack. So if you have had problems with your tomatoes cracking, that is why. Also, if you are watering your tomatoes by hand or whatever, and you see that they're starting to ripen, stop watering them. Let them dry down a bit. And let me just show you a tip that I learned to help you know whether or not your tomatoes need water or if they're still okay. Okay, so here I have my tomatoes, and obviously it just rained last night. But let me just show you what to look for of whether your tomatoes need water or not. So I have my tomatoes in there. They're doing good. One down there is starting to blush. Now, do you see these leaves right here? The ones that are starting to curl a bit. This is okay. This is actually good. We want this. Now, if the leaves on the top of your plant are starting to curl, that's not good. Okay? So leaf curling on the bottom, good. Leaf curling on the top, bad. Now, as you can see with this one, these leaves up here on the top are not curling. They are fine. They look really nice and healthy. They're not yellowing or anything. Down here, they're curling up a bit, and that's good. So all that means for the leaves that are curling at the bottom is that the plant is conserving energy and conserving moisture for the fruit that it's producing. If you have too much water, those leaves will be really open and they'll start to actually like push water out the sides of the leaves, which is not good. That means that your tomato plant has too much water and you want to really back off the water if you can. So if they look nice and healthy and aren't really curling much, if at all, and then the ones on the bottom, if they're curling, it's great. Leave them. It does not need water. Just leave it go. Now, this leaf curling tip is really for your larger tomatoes. The cherry tomatoes and things like that, they have a lot smaller leaves. It depends upon the variety that you have, but sometimes you will not have that leaf curl with your cherry or smaller sized tomatoes, and that's okay. They're just different. Like I said, their leaf structure is much smaller. They're a lot more compact of a plant. But then there's some varieties of cherry tomatoes that are more spread out and do have the bigger leaves. They might curl, the leaves might curl at the bottom. So this tip is really more for like your big beefsteak tomatoes or the larger size tomatoes and things like that. So I just want to show you an example of that right now. I have two different kinds of cherry tomatoes right here. I guess maybe this would be more of a grape tomato. Yeah, grape tomato. Right there. And then this one over here is a cherry tomato. So this one here, you can see that, let me find a good one. Like you can see that these leaves are starting to curl on the bottom of this grape tomato plant. This tomato plant is very big. He just kind of like spreads out, is very long, stalks and things like that, and the fruit is really spread out, and you can see that the leaves are a good size. Now again, I'm looking at the leaves on this one. They look pretty good on the top, and only a few of them are curling at the bottom. This tomato's fine. He doesn't need any water. Okay, then this tomato over here, my cherry tomatoes, you can see that the leaves on these guys are much smaller than the leaves on the grape tomato, and so you just won't have the same kind of leaf curl and things like that on this kind of plant as you would on a bigger tomato plant. This plant in general is very compact to show the leaf curl the same way that some of your other tomato plants will, so I don't really use that as a gauge for this kind of tomato. Well, there's just a little bit of tomato tips and information for you guys. So I hope it's helpful in helping you guys get yummy, really full flavored tomatoes and saving them from splitting if there's a bunch of rain on the horizon. Well, we'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.